Hello, happy Sabbath. It's a beautiful, well, kind of overcast Sabbath, but it's still wonderful to be here in the land of the living. So let's get right into it. I left off at where I came back from Uji Pines and I did some treatments. And oh, I forgot one thing. I forgot one treatment. That was the charcoal poultice, the little black powdery substance that we would put in our warm water, or for poisoning or whatever toxins we need to get out of. But we had to do that as a charcoal poultice, where we would make a paste out of it. So mine included water and flaxseed meal. We mixed that together and we would spread it out on a large band-aid or some type of meshy type material cloth, and we would paste it onto the area that was affecting you, that was inflamed or had a cyst or whatever. And I would put that on the side of my breast, and then I would place a saran wrap, I would tie the saran wrap straight around my body and go to sleep with it like that. And I had to put that around my body like that to make sure I didn't mess up any of my sheets. So I did that for several nights that I was there, and when I came home I also continued that. So fast forwarding to 2 years, I started to feel this pain under my arm again. Well, not again, it was in the breast area first, and then under my arm. And I was like, oh gosh, what's going on again, man? And it was the same side where I had the surgery. So I went to the doctor and he said, okay, let's do some tests, see what's going on here. Because I started to see this ball under my arm. It was like this big round ball just under the arm here. And we did the test, went home, waited, which is the worst part, waiting for the results. We waited, he called me back and he was like, okay, I need you to come in because we need to discuss a few things. I was like, this don't sound good again. Got there and he said, your cancer is back. I was like, what? 2 years later, where are you going? And so we start again. And of course this means I have to have another surgery to have the tumor removed. Now, at the time, there was this trip planned for the teachers and I was invited. We were going to Jamaica and I was like, I'm not gonna miss this trip. So I said, Doc, let me get right back to you on the date for that surgery. I went home, I told my mom, and she was all devastated and afraid again, and we were like, we can get through this, we did it the first time, let's do this, okay? Let's do this again and get over this. So I went ahead with making my plans for the trip to Jamaica. Because, I have a high tolerance for pain, so I figured I can handle this. I'll just deal with this when I come back. Like, you're already there. You might as well take a week extra. Now, the only problem I knew I was going to have was trying to stop people from hitting me on that arm, because for some reason our people, when they're telling a joke or a story or something, we have to hit somebody. Okay, so we got to hit you on the arm or smack you. So that was my only struggle, but I made it for about probably 2 days into the trip without anybody doing that to me, until one day one of my co-workers / schoolmate decided she's gonna tell this joke today, and I just happened to be standing on the wrong side of her. So I did not realize it, because I think we were all just into this story that she was telling, and she got to a certain part where she raised her hand and then she hit me on the exact arm, almost near the spot where my tumor was. Listen, my friend Alicia Bernard, who was like one of my good friends at Bahamas Academy, one of the teachers, she looked at me and she was like, oops, that hurt. And the only thing I could have done was run to my room, fling myself across the bed, cry, and wait for that pain to subside. Listen, I don't think to this day I told my friend how she hurt me. I don't think I did, no. Whew. But I survived that, and from there on for the rest of the trip, you know I was extra careful, right? So I did not get hit anymore on that trip. I made sure to protect my arm. I lasted the rest of the week. I enjoyed my time. I ate, I laughed, and I forgot all about my pain and my surgery for a while. But, you know, all good things must come to an end. That came to an end, and it was time to go back home to prepare for my surgery. That day, while I was being wheeled into the theater, I remember my mom and my boyfriend walking on either side of me. I'm crying because y'all know how it goes for me when it comes to surgery, okay? I'm crying. I am trying to just wiggle my way off this bed. And I watched them until the doors closed and I couldn't see them anymore. Now, I was in this room where I saw all kinds of sharp objects, knives and whatever it is they use for surgery, and I started crying some more. The nurses were like, it's okay, it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's not okay. And they kept rubbing me. They kept massaging my hand, and it's like, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. It's time for your anesthesia. And I remember somebody saying, count to 10 for me, or count backwards from 10. And I said, what? Count what? Who counting anything right now? I'm crying. I am afraid. I don't have time to count. And as the mask went over my nose, I remember my nose and mouth, and after they covered everything, and I was like, oh gosh, no, please, I don't want any surgery. And I was just crying and going to and fro, until finally I was out. The next thing I knew, I was awake. People were standing around me, and I'm like, is everything okay? We good? What? Surgery done? Please tell me surgery's done. So the doctor came in, and he started to explain to us what took place. Now, before I had the surgery, my doctor and I had the conversation that if my margins were not clean, then they can put the port in. From there, we would figure out what to do. So I got the port in, which is for chemotherapy. Now they say that if your margins are not clean, or if they are not sure, they will do chemotherapy to clean up the surrounding areas. So my port was in one side, and I had the surgery done where they removed the lump, which they said was the size of a golf ball. And now it was the healing process time. I stayed in the hospital for probably another week. And I was given this contraption with it looks like a cup, but it had a lid on it, and then there was a hole in it, and this long tube. Oh, there was also a light ball inside it, like a, what kind of ball would that be? Not a ping pong. It's a very light ball, but I had to blow in it until the ball would reach the top of the container. At first, I couldn't get the ball to the top, but after a few days, I was able to blow in it and get the ball all the way to the top. And then the docs were like, you need to move your arms, because I was in the hospital like, no, I can't move anything because, you know, it hurts. And they said, no, you have to move it, because if you don't, you're going to stiff up and it's going to take longer for you. So I had to practice lifting my arms, you know, one at a time, lifting them until finally I got the hang of it. And after they saw that I did so well, they released me. Went home, and now it's time for my sister Karen and my mother to take care of me, because I couldn't do anything for myself. I felt so helpless. And if anybody knows me, I'm a very independent person, and I like to do things myself. So I had to depend on my sister to bathe me, brush my teeth, comb my hair, shave me. Listen, when you're sick, there's no shame. So, you know, half the times I'm just ball naked getting bathed and stuff. And She had to feed me. I felt so helpless. There was a tube sticking out of I think both sides of me. No, yeah, both sides of me, because some kind of fluid had to drain it or something. But I healed properly. In 2 weeks' time, I was good. Now, I looked at the area where they placed the port. For some reason, my port was like a doorbell. It was like probably a quarter-sized, round-looking thing right under my collarbone. Now, I don't know if it was placed too high, or I was just that skinny, because it looked like a doorbell, and I would push it. I'd push it and I'd move it from side to side. And even my doctor was like, I don't know why yours protruding like that. When I put these in, nobody sees that, but I'm a special case, so yeah, I had a doorbell. The next thing, or the next decision I had to make now, is where I was going to stay, because I agreed to do the chemo and the radiation, but I wanted to do it in the States. I told the doctor that I don't want to do it here. So he recommended a friend that he has had in the States that was practicing at the time. So I said, okay, fine. I got the contacts, I made the appointment, and now I had to figure out where I was going to stay until I finished my treatments. But in the meantime, this was almost Christmas time, and I said, I'm going to enjoy my Christmas again. I'm going to enjoy my Christmas. Why, I keep putting off stuff, huh? So my nieces were scheduled to come down and spend a few days with us. They came, we went to the carnival, we went to church, did we go to Junkanoo? I don't remember we went to Junkanoo, but we sure did a lot of things. And in the meantime, I forgot about my pain, my surgeries, and what I was about to face. But time went on, we enjoyed ourselves, and it was now time for me to go, or to make plans for my trip. My nieces went back home, and now it was time to get back to reality. I spoke with someone, one of my, I would say friends, acquaintance, co-worker, and she said that her parents lived in Miami and they would accommodate me for a while until I got sorted out. So I said, great, because I was trying to figure out where I was going to stay. I contacted Carlisa, but she was a newlywed and they had moved all the way to Louisiana, which was too far from where I needed to go. So that didn't work out. About probably 3 days before I was supposed to go away, I got a call from my friend who said, my family members can't take you anymore. And I was like, what? Okay, now I gotta find someplace else. So I started to think, and I couldn't think of anybody. And then my sister said, I have a friend who's in Miami. Let me call her and find out what's what. So she called her and we got to go ahead. She was like, yes, I can put you in an apartment because it's vacant at the time. And I was, thank you, Lord, because I didn't know what else I was gonna do. So we made the plans, booked our trip, and we were off. For some reason, I was excited and scared at the same time. And my sister was very excited. She couldn't wait to get to the States. So this was also a good opportunity for her. We got to the house or the apartment and opened the door, and when I looked in, I was like, ooh, this doesn't look quite like what I was expecting. And I little OCD, and the place was kind of filthy. Like, I could hardly see the floor in the kitchen or the countertop in the kitchen. And we were like, okay, well, we don't have anywhere else to go, so we're gonna have to thug this out for a bit. And of course, we tried to make the best of it, but it wasn't working. It was not working. Carlisa came down to see me, and she took us out sometimes for something to eat. Then there was a particular Sabbath, she took us to a friend's house for dinner, and it was such a beautiful house, 2-story, clean and nice, like how I like it. And one day before she left to go back to Louisiana, she said, do you know where this hospital is that you're supposed to be going to? And I said, I have no idea. So we got the directions, plugged it into the GPS, and we started to go and look for the hospital, so when the date actually came, I would know where to go. We drove around until the GPS took us in this area where it was saying that this is the place. And we looked around. The place looked like a shanty town, or someplace where you were about to see hay rolling around in the road or something, because it was desolate. And we were like, are they sure this is where we're supposed to be? I mean, I don't see a name. I don't see nothing looking like a hospital or a doctor's office. And we were like, okay, let's turn in for the day. And we went back home. She dropped me back home, and she said, we'll try tomorrow. We tried the next day, and it took us to the same place. There's too much noise up there. It took us to the same place, and we were like, okay, this must be it. We just have to go and knock on a few doors and ask some questions. I don't know how we ended up finding it or realizing that this was actually the place, but we walked and we knocked on this door asking a few questions, and it happened to be the place where I was supposed to be having this treatment. I walked in, and I was like, boy, Mia don't look too enticing either. But I went in, spoke with the receptionist. She said, yes, this is where you're supposed to be. And I made the appointment. Everything was scheduled. And I was like, okay, I will see you later when it's time for me to come back for my treatment. But my spirit was not taking to that place. I was more afraid than anything else. While we were waiting, I was still trying to figure out, okay, I need somewhere else to stay. I cannot stay in this place. It was just not healthy. It was just not clean. And then I remember Joseph Evans Jr. He was right in the area of where I need to go to the hospital. So I called him. I said, hey, I need somewhere to stay. You know, he's a bachelor, so it was only him in this big apartment. And I'm like, me and my sister need somewhere to stay until I can do this treatment. And he was like, sure, y'all can come right down. And I was like, oh, thank you. So we packed our bags and we headed over to Joseph Evans Jr.'s house. Of course, when we got in, Karen still did a little, cleaning up, because, that's what we do. But it was nice. We had our own room. We stayed there, and it was very comfortable. Now, the only thing is, we had to find out now, how would we get to this treatment, because he was not able to drop us because he was a teacher and he had to be to work. So we said, okay, fine, sure, we can thug this up, because we thugs, right? We've been handling it. We took the bus. We got on the bus stop, and we told the bus driver where we needed to go, and it took us right to the hospital. Got in there, spoke with the receptionist. She said, have a seat, we will get right to you. I sat in there and I was like, listen, I think I need to make a dash for it. I think this is the wrong thing. I don't think I should be in here. And my sister was like, no, you need to do your treatment. So I said, fine. So we stayed. I still wanted to run though. Then my name was called. They took me in this back room, took my pressure and everything. And my sister was right there with me because I was not going in there alone. The place just didn't look like somewhere I was supposed to be. Next thing I knew, I was in a gown and placed on this plywood, not a bed, a plywood or a table. There were two nurses in there, a Haitian and a Jamaican nurse. And I remember looking around and I saw the drip and I'm like, why does that drip look like Kool-Aid? It was orange. I have never seen an orange drip. I said, anyway, okay, they must be know what they're doing. My sister was in there with me as well. And as that drip went, the first drip that went into my body, I got this burning, I talking about stinging, burning pain that started from here, from my head, straight down to my vagina. It just stopped right there. And I was screaming and shouting and twisting and turning and trying to get off the table. And one of the nurses had to jump across my chest. The next one jumped across my stomach. My sister grabbed my legs. I was like, dang, what is this? Whew. I think that lasted for about 5-6 minutes. felt like actually 30 minutes. And after a while, the pain eased, and I took the rest of that drip, the rest of that Kool-Aid, that orange color looking drip, and the under my arm still had a swelling. And I can tell you, after I took that drip, that went down like poof. I was like, that's some strong stuff. So after I came off that plywood table, I went into the bathroom because I felt like peeing. And when I got off the bowl and I looked back, I'm like, oh no, but my pee is blood. It was just blood and clots. I was like, okay. I cleaned up myself, and I went to the doctor. I'm like, doc, why? First of all, why did I have that pain? Secondly, why am I peeing blood? And he was like, I don't know. I don't understand what went wrong. Because first of all, I've watched movies where people were on death row and had to get executed, right? Their execution looked like it went way better than my chemo treatment just now. And I was like, something there, right here, I'm not coming back here. Y'all trying to kill me. And I didn't go back. We went out into the foyer, and now we need to know how to get home. And there was this gentleman who saw that we were distraught, and he was like, do you need a ride home? I can get off your ride home. Listen, like, our minds wasn't even, we were not even thinking, because we don't take rides with strangers, but that day we did. And he actually took us home. We got there, and I settled in. That night, I think was the next day, I started vomiting and vomiting and vomiting, like I just couldn't stop, like I was trying to bring up my guts. I guess my body was shocked. And they called the hospital. I don't know what they told us to do. I don't think they actually helped. And Joseph called his father, Dr. Joseph Evans Sr., and I don't remember what he told us to do, but I remember something involving warm milk and slicing an orange and heating it. I don't remember how exactly it went, but after a while, everything stopped and I felt better. So now I said I was not, okay, really? I'm trying to do something here. That's noise, okay. I said I was not going back to that hospital, and I meant it. They kept calling me, and I said, no, I'm not going back there. Something is wrong with what y'all did. So I called my doctor in the Bahamas, and I said, Doc, I need to find someplace else, because that place there ain't it. So I need another hospital. And once I found a hospital, then we could contact my insurance company. I think it took about 2 weeks, probably about 2 weeks before I was able to find someplace else. But in the meantime, I just, I went shopping, I went for walks, I just, carried on a normal life until everything was done. And in about a week and a half, I noticed my hair was falling out. I'm like, ooh, it's time for the hair to come out. I don't know why I was excited about this. Sis, look, my hair falling out. Like, this is excitement. Joseph grabbed the camera. My sis came running, and they was just snapping pictures with me. I'm like, so I'm a clown. Y'all think this is funny? But it was funny, because I just did this, and my hair would come out. And then it happened again. I started to feel bad, and I had to end up going to another hospital because it appeared as though, well, my white blood cells would not come back up. They were really too low. So I had to go and stay into this hospital for another week. It was a really nice hospital. I had my own bathroom, my own room, my own television. And Joseph and Karen would come by often and bring me books to read. And, just things to keep me occupied and entertained as I waited. I had to get needles in my stomach. I'm like, needles again and in my stomach? But it was like a little fine needle, and they would just stab me with it. It just did a little sting, so that wasn't too bad. I didn't have to cry and fight for that one. So I took that for a few days, and this was to get my white blood cells to come back up. But in the meantime, I couldn't eat nothing except broth, and the broth tasted like dirty dishwater. I'm like, listen, nurse, you can't slip me a little something, I'm hungry. And she's like, no, you have to have this broth every day. So that went on for a few days, and finally my blood count started to come back up, and they were like, you can eat some food now. So vegetarian diet went out the window. At that point, I had some chicken and rice, and listen, that was like heaven. I was like, oh yeah, I needed this. So I got better, and I was able to come out of the hospital. Okay, so then it was time to once again wait, because I still didn't find a hospital that I needed to go to. The process was very long, and as I waited, just kept waiting, my hair even started to grow back. And what happened next? It looks like this journey was just going and going. Like I was just traveling all over the states trying to find doctors and hospitals. But I'm gonna stop right there because I have to go. But I will see you next time, and we will continue this journey long. Hey, and I always seem to be in my car when I'm recording this stuff. This is the only time I seem to get some free time. But I'll be back. I will see you soon. Later.